Rockeyez would like to welcome Ray West, Spread Eagle. Hey, man, what's up? What's going on?
I'm good, man. Just trying to stay healthy
Uh-huh.
and keep all my friendships alive and just stay in touch, man. Connect.
Cool, cool, cool. How's it living in Florida? You get to go to the beach and everything else, or what's up with that?
I'm religious about it. I
Uh-huh.
think because I grew up, down here,
Uh-huh.
and because I'm a beach bum. I was a Brooklyn baby, but they brought me down here when I was really young, so you just hear the beach all the time. But now I realize how much I miss it. So I bike to the beach every other day. It's
Right.
about a 26 mile, ride all the way around. So it's 12 miles to the beach. But I'm there all the time, man. It's like if I don't get it at least like for a half hour a day, I get grumpy. Like sex, man.
Yeah. Well, I just saw, I think, a little video of you on a boat, too, right?
Yeah, well, that was because Brando and I,
Uh-huh.
I've been hanging on to my mother's ashes,
Uh-huh.
like since she passed away in 2014, and I just had a hard time letting go of it. And a friend of mine down here, was
Right.
like, I can take it out of my boat. We could spread our ashes. It would really be like, it would really be very powerful. You won't believe it till you do it. So that was the boat ride. It wasn't just a joy ride. Well, it was a joy ride, I guess, but
Right.
we went to intern my. They call it the internment, right? The internment of the ashes. Is that how you say it? I
Right,
think
yeah.
we did that. So he was like, let's do that. It'll make you feel better. You'll let go of a lot of stuff, and because it's really it was a very heavy burden,
Right.
carrying that stuff. It just gets heavy. So
Wow.
that was the boat ride. But we got to go down to Key Largo and just hang out with him at his place. It's great. He lives, it's like he's right on just off the ocean. So it's like the streets there, just the canals, and it's a boating culture, and it's pretty cool. So he took us out, and we enjoyed the fuck out of that. So it was great. And then we did it on sunset as the sun was setting,
Cool.
and we dropped my mother's ashes, and it was really powerful. And we played like some of her favorite music, and I think we played the Carpenters "Close to You," and I lost my shit. So
Yeah.
I mean, I just made a little video of it and released it, and I just said I'll just show it to everybody. I don't care because I believe in being transparent. Like what's Facebook for and all that shit. It's like
Right.
I do like to connect. No, I don't troll on it all day, but I do like to connect with everybody, and I get it. So
Right,
I'm
right.
like, why not? I'll share it.
Wow. So tell me, when you were a little kid, how did your relationship with your mother was?
Uh, it's, every mom's a saint to some people. My mom was just perfect. My mom sacrificed everything for us, and she raised three boys. On her very small salary.
Right.
But she was just a great, strong, positive person. She the people that knew my mom love her. They were in her orbit. If my mom was in your orbit, she took care of you. And my house was always the house growing up where the kids always partied and hung out, and she was cool with that. She took care of everybody. But also, my mother worked at night for the post office, a graveyard. So I
Right.
had the house and everything. I had total freedom from 9 o'clock in the evening to whenever she came home. So I was free to roam. So
Wow.
wasn't the best child. I was a bit of a pain in the ass, but your mom loves you no matter what unconditionally, and you still like an asshole. But the
Right.
more love you get, the more of an asshole you become sometimes. But she
Wow.
she was just tremendous, man, and she was strong. She tolerated me, and uh, it was really deep, man.
Cool. Cool. Cool.
I
Wow.
loved it. I loved it like no one's business.
Wow. So did she steer you towards music? Did you just did it on your own? Did she support you? How'd that work out?
She was supportive in the sense that if it made me happy, she was just all about it.
Right.
Like I don't know, I was very lazy about learning guitar or drums. I think she bought me a set of drums when I was 5 years old, and I ruined that. And then I took guitar lessons, and it came very naturally. But I was like, I blew off that. So I decided somewhere in my life that singing was cool. So she was the one that bought me a PA. Took her down to the Soundshine. I think it's called Sunshine Exchange. I think it was Soundshine Studio Center. Anyway, she bought me my first PA. She was that kind of mom, and she
Right.
she actually let me set up my first band in the house.
That's unusual, right?
Yeah, man, it was crazy. She got used to the cops being called. It
Right.
wasn't too raucous, but it was we were loud, and she was she would just put up with it. My grandmother also raised us too because she worked, so my grandmother was our biggest fan. She would sit on the couch and she would just love it, man.
Wow.
And my little brother Anthony would come out and jam, and it was great.
Cool. Cool, cool. So when you first started your first band, what was the name of it before you did any recording or anything like that?
The first band, actually, I lived in Colorado for a couple of years with my father.
Right,
I tried that out, because we wanted to be buddies.
right.
Um, and he was cool about it. But I got a job at a place called Independent Records.
Uh huh.
And one of the guys there was like in a band, and we were all having this, we were all getting stoned one day. And he was like, "Hey, Ray, man, can you sing?" And I just went like, yeah. I didn't know what else to say. I was like, no, man, I wasn't that kind of person. So we went to Jam. I forgot the name of the band.
Wow.
Oh, that's terrible because that was the question too.
Right.
It was so far ago, so far back that I don't remember the name of the band. But it was cold. Like I did, I think I ran through Bad Company, the Bad Company song, and Double Vision by Foreigner, and we just had a band together. We never did a gig though. But but then when I moved back to Florida to live with my mother again, in high school I had a band called Equinox, and the leader of that band was a guy named Todd Wilhelmy. Great guy, just great writer. He wrote the lyrics, and he was just that kind of dude. He was very like a Roger Waters kind of cat,
Right.
He just had lyrics in his head and melodies, and all I had to do was sing. And that was, we thought we were the bee's knees, man, because we were all original, and we thought that was cool. Every other band in our high school was like doing covers, and we were the kind of band. I had the whole experience where I played, oh man, I can't I miss this other band. Before that was a band called Diamond Needle. Maybe that came after. Well, let's just talk about that after. Anyway, Equinox was my high school band. We did really cool originals, and we did a talent show at the school. And it was that kind of culture, You walked around the hallways with your band colors on, and it was our little gang. And it was cool, man. It was cool. And then I had another band called Diamond Needle. I thought that was like the best band I'd ever been in.
Right.
It had the hotshot guitar hero in the neighborhood.
Cool.
Great drummer. Great bass player. We actually entered a high school battle of the bands, and we played U2 Sunday, New Year's Day. We did Highway Star, My Generation, and we did an original.
Right.
The original was called. Man, my memory's so bad. Anyway, we won, but it was like that of a movie because the hot band, they were all dressed like Loverboy. This is like stuff for a movie. They were all dressed like Loverboy, and the singer came up to me so cocky. He's like, I've seen your band before, man. You guys,
right.
You just go home. It was really, it was funny 'cause it was great to kick their ass and just bury them.
Right.
So that was the first time in my life, though, where I had I played in front of audience, a whole, high school gym full of people, and they were all applauding. We was like, I thought I was fucking King Ding-a-ling, man. I was like, this is really cool. We got some money out of it.
Wow.
And we actually did a little bit of recording. I'm sure those tunes are dead and buried. We a song called Every Dog Has His Day. What is the other one called? Anyway, I'll remember later. Somewhere I'll look it up. But it's the kind of songs you go and record. You never get to find them again because those experiences are gone. And it was before digital and all that shit. So,
wow.
My mother always supportive. I always seem to be in bands. Something about watching the Midnight Special just messes with your brain chemistry.
Oh yeah.
Then you see Kiss, and you're like, I just want to do that. Whatever they're doing, I want to do that because I'm just like glued to this thing. And Kiss Army patches, and the comic books, and I just was rock and roll was everything.
Wow.
And my mom constantly blasted, like Motown in the house.
Yep.
So she was always had music on when she was cleaning or whatever, and I wouldn't get it, even if it was above my TV show, I would just hang with her.
Right. Yeah. Cool. So, as the years went by and stuff like that, and you started to do more music, what was the first band that actually really got noticed and started to take off besides Spread Eagle?
Well, before that, down here there was a big local scene during like that sort of mid to late '80s thing. Was like, Florida FLA was what I call faux LA.
Right.
I know LA was the place to be, but we had our own little clique then. I guess every state has their own little clique of bands in the scene, but we were like, a scene unto ourselves. And we had a club here called Art Stocks Playpen. We were at all the time, but the band was called Defiance. We modeled ourselves after like every other, 80s band. We were like fans of Motley Crue and Van Halen and, Sabbath. Rat was a big deal for me. I loved Rat. Something about that sound. Like if I was to be, imagine myself for any '80s band, but Rat was just so cool, man. Such a massive sound. But we had a manager. We got some money. We actually were put on a little salary. So we thought we were living rock star lives, like 19, 20 years old, and we were kept on a salary. Our job was to go to the manager's boathouse.
Right.
It was like a 2-story boathouse, real real shishi, and we just hung out all day from I think it was 10 to 4 or something, just answering phones,
Right.
Going out on the boat, playing tennis all day, and rehearse.
Right.
And they paid for us to go to that was my first experience with going into the studio, with a band and working with the producer, and that's when I learned that, man, I really sucked, man. Once you hear yourself track tape,
right.
and you're like, oh, you think you're awesome, and then you got a room full of people, and they just, wow, it's humble pie.
Wow.
So I think singers eat humble pie for a long time.
Wow.
But when you hear, because you track your voice,
right.
and they're all out there watching you, and you're trying to be cool, and they drop, once you're muted, once they mute the band, it's just you, because it's just your voice. There's nothing else around. It's all your
right.
between words,
Uh-huh.
It's really enlightening.
Wow.
And that made me grow up quick. So that was my first experience with the studio.
Cool.
I think they'd also flown us up to a place called Millbrook Sound.
Uh-huh.
Well, with a guy named Paul Orfino. And there's a Millbrook Sound Studios, and was first being built, I think it was in Poughkeepsie somewhere, just outside of Poughkeepsie.
Uh-huh.
We did a whole a whole album's worth of material. And during that time, our stage vibe was very like Angel. We dressed in white.
Uh-huh.
And, a lot of white clothes, a lot of bad photo shoots, a lot of bad hair on my part.
Right.
But the experience of, like being in a band and camping out in the mountains and just recording, and that was their whole life. That was like, I was like, I could do this for the rest of my life. It's like this,
Wow.
Yeah.
But
once again, I ran into studio problems, and the thing with me in vocals, I think I've become a bit of a perfectionist. So it takes me. I'm the last person to leave the studio.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, and I always hear, well, Ray, we've got it. You've done enough. You've done enough. Let's just call it a day, because all you're doing now is beating a dead horse.
Right. Yeah.
But I always am a pain in the ass in the studio about, I want to do it again. I want to fix the word. I want to fix the H in the word the.
Right.
Yep. And that's me. So I learned a lot. And Paul Orfino was really cool. The band actually flew home, and I stayed longer to do vocals.
Wow.
And then which means that I was left alone with a lot of the final vocal ideas. And when you do that without the band present, people get a little weird.
Yeah.
But they were cool about it. They were like, oh, it's a little lighter than what we thought. I'm also super. I love melody, so sometimes I'll turn something that has a lot of edges, very smooth by my own mistake and just the way I work. I'll work something into the ground, which just becomes smooth, and it's like, that's not where I started. Wow. But you learn your lessons. That's where I was first. That was the first time ever I was actually comfortable in the studio. I hope that makes sense to you.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
Then you come home and you have a really cool demo, and then someone attempts to go and shop it, and then nobody wants it, and then then you got to go do it again. So that band was a real experience. As far as we were all for one for all, but at the end of the day, it just didn't work out. So I was asked. I had to leave that band, and what it was I was also doing another project in Ithaca. So I flew back and forth. I was recording for another band. Actually, Fred Corey, who became the drummer for Cinderella,
right,
had asked me to come up. We met at a bar down here, and I told him about my band, Defiance, and he was like, come up to New York and sing on this demo. So I was like, told the guys, I'm going to go and do this demo. They're very supportive. But in the middle of me starting to work on the demo, Fred got a call to go to Philadelphia and join Cinderella. Right. So that was like, what do I fucking do? So I just kept doing it, and I forgot the name of the band that was under, but it's years later, you hear about these tapes that come on. I know it was called Utaro. The kid's name was something Utaro, Joe or Jeffrey. But anyway, you always have somebody that says, hey man, is this you? I'm like, oh God,
Yeah.
That's fucking horrible.
Wow.
It's horrible, man. I think all the I never had, a great outlook on my production. Like, it's okay. If someone likes it, cool. But I had a hard time, digesting my own sound.
Right. Yeah.
So, I came home, and I thought I would come home to rejoin the band, but as it turned out, people go their separate ways. I was a bit flaky, and I deserved it.
Uh-huh. Wow.
So, it was, and then after that, I'm sitting around for 2 weeks, and we had a club down here called Summers on the Beach. And the sound man who started working for Creed.
Wow.
Oh man, I'm so bad. I can't believe I can't remember any. Getting older, man, you forget everything. I should have wrote a bunch of stuff down for us to talking to you. It'll come to me. But anyway, he had gotten a call. I think he was at a place called Summers down here.
Right.
And this guy Charlie Gambetta was down from New York City, just asking around if there were singers because he had a band in New York City that was kind of Guns N' Roses like. And that's when I got a call. And I was sitting next to my mom actually. I was like, Mom, this guy's calling me about coming to meet him at a club and, maybe check out this band in New York. Well, go ahead, go check it out. She was cool like that.
Cool.
So I met with Charlie at the club. I played him the stuff that I was doing with my band, and he looked at me just like I was the saddest puppy. He's like, man, this is not good. I'm like, okay, well, that's all I got, That's the only experience I have. So he played me the demo of what they were doing. They were called Fox Hunt.
Uh-huh.
They were booking a deal. They were hunting a deal with Columbia, one of those kind of companies.
Right.
I flew up. On my own dime, and got picked up at the airport and landed in New York City after not being back since I was a little kid. You're alone in New York City. I was now I'm like 21, 22.
Uh-huh.
Maybe a little older. Anyway, but the point is, they're picking me up. I'm with people I've never met before. They're treating me like gold. We go into downtown Manhattan to Houston Avenue A, and there's a big mural of there's a big Kiss mural there now.
Right.
Anyway, long story short, I meet the band, and I was told about the guitar player Kenny. I won't say his last name, but he was very Keith Richards-like. He was sniffing dope, and he was like this quintessential rock god to me when I met him. I was like, man, this guy just looks cool. Fishnet this, tattoos, cowboy boots with spurs. Like, this guy's fucking crazy. Wow. And all the guys lived in it was this corner apartment. It was kind of half apartment, half cave. I can't even explain it.
Right.
It was an experience, but met everybody. I stayed at the manager's house, and the band sort of lived separate until we all kind of got together for a first rehearsal. Rehearsal was in the back cave, that's all I'll call it. Uh-huh. And, I sang the 2 songs they gave me, and that's a really interesting experience, I think, auditioning for a band like that with people you really haven't met, but they know you by your voice, and the demo they heard you think is terrible.
Uh-huh.
So we did the 2 songs, and everybody was, cool, man. But all the guitar player cared about was me going for a walk with him. And if I had $20 in my pocket, to give it to him so he can go buy heroin.
Wow.
You're in. Thanks for the 20, man. You're in. You got the gig, man. Yeah, I said, just so you know, I don't have any more money. Wow. So this isn't like a thing.
Yeah.
And so I was in a band with everybody. Everybody else really did dope, and I didn't.
Right.
And I got into some serious narcotics and stuff, but not I never injected anything or stuff like that.
Right. Wow.
But it was that so I was in this band, and we rehearsed all the time. I was living and breathing rock and roll every day. I was in the studio, living in an apartment on Avenue between First and A on 9th Street, and it was just like a whole lifestyle change. Right. I dropped right into New York, man. It was comfortable. It became part of my identity, and there's one thing about living down here in Fort Lauderdale at that time. Sunshine. You can kind of you can get a bit delusional.
Right. Yeah.
So New York changed me, and it got into my blood all over again. Became part of my DNA all over again. And I'm in a rock band. The rock band was called Fox Hunt at the time, and that was my first experience with, recording every day and doing showcases. So we would gig at CBGBs, any hole in the wall we would play pretty much.
Right. Yeah.
And it was a lot. The manager had a lot of juice, and the business is about connections. So he knew someone for CBS and Columbia, and I started doing those things, making those rounds and meeting those people. I feel like I'm rambling now, but let me know if I'm just I can stop for you. Okay, so there I am, and me and the bass player hung out a lot. His name was Adrian Volgraff. Great guy, man. Great guy. He was down there. He could fight.
Right.
He's maybe 5'8", 5'9", skinny dude, skinnier than me. But Adrian can scare down anybody, man. Hell's Angel, nothing, doesn't matter. Adrian will beat the shit out of you, and he's magical with the pool cue.
Yeah.
Man, I never met nobody like him, man. Wow. So he was my hang buddy, and that's how it works in bands. You always connect with really one person, you become hang buddies, and you confide in each other and whatnot. And I I think little by little, we started moving along, making some traction. But then Kenny and his his junkie girlfriend had a baby.
Uh-huh.
So I was living in the apartment alone with the manager. And then next thing I know, Kenny is moving in with his girl. And then the whole band's living together. So now we're all living together in this apartment instead of the Batcave.
Wow.
And it was just nuts, man. I can't even explain it. There was just, I woke up with, I would wake up with people in bed that had tattoos on their heads, or it was nuts. One day my manager came in, I had two friends over, and they were extremely tattooed in different places. And one was like this really cool bald-headed girl named Charlie, and one I think was names, whatever. She had a tattoo on the side of her forehead. I had them both on my bed, and he was just like, Ray,
wow.
what the f*** are you doing, man? I'm like, I'm living the dream, man. That's what you got me doing.
Right, yeah.
So it was that kind of atmosphere. So we would go to the scrap every night and just inhale alcohol and whatever else we could.
Right.
It was, the building of a family out of nothing.
Right, yeah.
So I joined this crew, and for me to be in it too a little more, I kind of got a little stupid there because I really never did narcotics.
Right.
Until after I was done with Spread Eagle.
Right, yeah.
I think during that time I dabbled in a lot of stuff, but I never was considered a hardcore junkie or any shit like that. It's weird because you think it's never going to happen to you.
Right.
And you just, next thing you know, you're just in this place, in this mode of being, and you just get stupid, man. You just get carried away with things, and you get lost.
Right, yeah.
So I'm the kind of person, I need details all through the day, where I need to be, what I got to do, and I'm much better like that. When I have free time,
right, yeah.
that's when I go down. That's when it gets stupid.
Wow.
So we get a lot of showcases and all that, but somehow the guitar player wound up stealing a lot of gear.
Right, yeah.
I think he moved to he went to LA or something, and when we didn't have him, that's when Charlie started looking for other guitar players. So somehow Charlie met this kid, Paul DiBartolo from Boston, and his manager, Scott Calvert. And they had a lot of, they had a band in Boston called Bang.
Right.
And they had MTV did those basement tape things.
Right, yeah.
So I think down here they had Z-Toys, but up there, Bang, they were kind of very, very Van Halen-esque. They had a song called Summertime, very Van Halen, real happy-go-lucky music. And what we were doing in the city was a little bit more sleazy.
Right, yeah.
A little more down to earth. And anyway, so Paul was brought in to be the guitar player for Fox Hunt. And what I thought was great. He was just this great, amazing player, great personality, smart guy, very soulful, very huge vocabulary on guitar.
Right.
And people who know spread music know how great his playing is. He's so fucking good.
Definitely.
So what happened was, somehow we started doing these great rehearsals at Loho Studios. We always worked out of Loho Studios, which is in Chinatown. It's over off of Lafayette. Just where Chinatown meets,
right.
Whatever that, by Canal.
Okay.
It'll come to me. I hope you can edit this or something. Good luck with that. Anyway, so the magic of it is, somehow Kenny Rocks, the guitar player guy that stole the gear, came back to New York. Now, the thing was, Charlie thought he was so special that he could be forgiven for anything. So
right.
It's like, let Kenny rejoin the band. I'm like, really, man? So now we have two guitar players. So Paul, I think, was kind enough to jam one time, and he was just like, this isn't for me, man. This isn't going to work out with this guy, and I'd like to do something a little different. So Charlie was a big help to him. He's like, well, get your band here to New York, and you guys will do your demo. And if you can't find a singer right away, we'll have Ray help you out with your demo, and then that'll help you go find a singer.
Right.
I had been real lazy, whether it was the alcohol, the drugs. I was like, they'll find somebody. Charlie's like, listen, just go fucking do these tracks. Get up off your lazy ass and go do this, man. Do them a solid, Don't be that guy. I said, okay. We went and tracked something. I heard a few tunes, and I worked up something. I think Rob had written a lot of lyrics for what they were doing. Because Rob and Tommy were still, they came to New York City. So in other words, once Paul split from me, he got those guys to come to New York, and they were going to be a New York-based band and not be in Boston anymore and find a singer here in New York. And so I wound up tracking with them. I think we did Scratch Like a Cat, and there was a song called Gun Shy. I don't think we ever used it, but it was good, strong stuff, and we're developing this crazy sound. I was singing with all my natural ability, which I wasn't really trained.
Right.
So I was doing this nasally falsetto cat. I've said it before, like a cat being put through a meat grinder.
Right.
On helium. That's how I used to sing. I just top of my range, and like Alvin the Chipmunks on steroids.
Cool.
And anyway, we created this sort of cool sound, and it got to be like, we recorded for 2 days, and then the guitar player happened to come by from the other band, and he heard it, and he was like, well, I guess we're over. I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
So he was like, this is the sound. When I think I screamed like scratch at like 4 a.m. or something,
Right.
and we're like, this is cool, it's working. There's something happening to you. Like I'm changing, I'm getting angry, I'm developing a different style, I'm being more raspy, whatever the hell it was, because Charlie thought since my demo's down here that I played it really safe,
Right.
and I kind of did. I think you want because when you're learning, you just want to sound like everybody else.
Definitely. Yeah.
Your style has to come through eventually.
Right.
And they just found a way to, Charlie would mess with my head, man. He would put me through all kinds of different mind games, and I just wound up getting really angry, and I would use that, and he would have me use that on tape. So that's what a lot of that early stuff's about.
Right.
Anyway, so that's when Spread Eagle was formed without a name yet. So everything from that moment got really fast. So next thing I'm in a band. Now we're writing like crazy because these guys write a lot, and they write fast. And Rob and Paul had songs from, their other band that they transferred into the Spread Eagle stuff, and we worked on that. I think like Switchblade Serenade was actually probably something else back in the day, the riff, and I heard them singing the chorus. I was like, wow, that's fucking cool, And nothing they wrote was like a disappointment to me. I was like, holy shit, and then I was involved with this process, and that's when things got real in my life. So, fireworks in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I heard it.
You heard that. And from writing a demo to having that demo shopped very quickly, we really went from demo to showcasing. Like we've done a few gigs, but like at Sanctuary or the Cat Club, but people, instead of us doing showcases at clubs, they came to us at our rehearsal room, like RCA, everybody, Kaplan, all those guys came in, but Bruce Dickinson from MCA came in, and he's the one that signed us right away. But This was fast. I mean, from putting the band together to getting signed must have been about like 4 to 6 months.
Wow.
It was crazy. And the band had a really like aggressive attack attitude. We had a lot of energy. Everybody was hungry. I got my shit together. I wasn't just singing lazy anymore. I was trying for this new style, this really super aggressive thing. And I think maybe that comes from having like, AC/DC in my head and all the singers that you admire growing up, with Bon Scott, Brian Johnson, all that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
That's all I could gather was that kind of sound. And Charlie and Kirk Yano, they kind of pulled that out of me. I have a hard time listening to that record. People are very sweet about it, the first Fred record.
Right.
But I have a hard time with it because I know what I went through emotionally to deliver that kind of shit.
Right. Yeah.
And it's almost like I couldn't do it live. I couldn't imagine, once I heard the record done, I couldn't imagine doing it live, which is a whole other thing. Recording that thing was a beast. I think we were in like 3 different studios, but just signing the contract the day that we talked to Bruce, that he came to us in our rehearsal space,
right,
to go into the big black building in the middle of the city, to go in this huge room. It's like a scene out of like Devil's Advocate. It's a huge long table,
right,
and Satan's on the other end. He's like, "Come on, boys, sign this paper."
Yeah.
And there was, I remember that day because it was the room wasn't lit much. It was kind of dark. Some of the shades were down. And Scott, after we were all kind of signed the contract, there's a lot of signing. And Scott says, the other manager, said, "Come on, you guys just signed a contract, man. Let's see some smiles. And you guys should be happy." And I'm like, this feels weird because I don't know what I'm signing.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't read much. We're all just so hungry to be on it. We're like, it's like a million other different stories. 4 young guys sign away everything. So we were on a trip, man. And then from signing the contract to, actually going into the studio.
Right.
And the record plant was coming to the end of its day as far as, being open. I think we were the last band to record in the record plant in the city.
Wow.
And a lot of history there, man. I spent a lot of time on the roof, drinking blueberry wine, stuff like that. It was really a trip. If I tried to write a book about it, it would take me forever because there's just so much to remember. Just the experience of it, the experience of being a young guy signing into the rock business. That's a big business.
Right.
And you're just happy to be singing, and you're happy to have a roof over your head and be eating and having people do things for you, and you don't pay for nothing.
Right.
It's like an endless beer tap. It's an endless bag of weed, whatever else you want.
Right, yeah. Wow.
So that changes you, man. It just makes you weird, man. You know, you're always on edge, and you just start living the dream.
Right.
But you know, you feel like it's always going to get pulled from under you. You know, so we were kept pretty much in a bubble.
Wow.
It was just an experience. Everybody wants to be in a sign band and have that whole like get on the bus and rock and roll, and you're doing festivals, and I it was great. It was great, man. The good times were really good.
Wow.
The bad times were really bad. You know, when you leave on a full-fledged bus with a beautiful bunk and space, and you come home at the end of the whole, you know, experience riding on top of the gear
Right.
in a rider rental truck.
Yeah.
I mean, this time we shouldn't be alive, man.
Wow.
So, you know, that's spread, man. And just such good guys, man. You know, it was great. Tommy, Paul, Rob, myself, you know. But I just felt like I was mismanaged for so many years. And at the end of the ride, me and Paul just sat in this bar over by the Hells Angels bar on 3rd Avenue.
Uh-huh.
And we just sat there and we're like, you know, let's not do this to each other anymore. You know, we just had sort of like built a wall between us, you know, and I was really disenchanted with the management. You know, I love Charlie like a father. I'm a child of divorce, so I'm always trying to like please, you know, the dad,
Right.
you know, or the big brother. So I just wanted to make him happy, and I just, you know,
Wow.
the best way for me to leave, you know, to get over this thing was just to leave. So
Yeah.
I was like, Paul, I'm out.
Wow.
He was like, all right, you know. So I think they tried to continue on. You know, I know they had talked to some other singers and things like that, but it didn't go through. You know, years later, I talked to Charlie. He was like, Ray, you had the brass ring and you threw it away. You know, do you walk around with your balls in your hand, or do you are you a guy of integrity, or are you going to bow to these things that just? I think Spread could have obviously still been in the game and made it through the '90s if we had just switched to another, because we were actually switching to another label.
Right.
But I just felt so fucked over and just had such a bad taste in my mouth that I was like, I'm just going to get out of here.
Wow.
You know, I didn't think it was for me, man.
Cool. Now,
I don't know whether it's me being weak or what, but I just didn't want it anymore.
right, yeah. Well, now you got the new version of Spread Eagle, and you know, you put out one album already. You're working on the new one, right?
Yeah, can you believe that, man? So I think it was like around 2009 or something. Me and Robbie just started like talking again, and it's like, let's put some shows together. It was just it's like a movie. It's another like movie on VH1 movie, and we just like Robbie stayed in the business. Rob is like really super strong like that.
Right.
You know, he's a workhorse, and he's a quality gentleman, and he's somebody that people want to be around. He's like just this really great congenial cat, but he's also very tough.
Right.
You know, so you can't confuse kindness or weakness with that dude. You know, he watches you like a hawk. You know, and he's smart. He's learned a lot from the business. But you know, he went out with Bach, and which is another funny thing because Bach was a huge Spread fan.
Wow.
I remember Jerry Miller asking for me if it was okay for Baz to have my number. We were out at Concrete conventions. I know I'm going back and forth now. We were at Concrete Foundations, you know, playing with everybody. Judas Priest, Alice in Chains. It was what a great time. That was a whole another fucking experience. I can't ever, you know, pay enough for it. It's just so good. But Bach called me on the phone. He's like, he gets up, he goes, "Crash!" I'm like, okay. Yeah. And he was cool, man. He was cool. That was our first sort of connection with Skid Row. But after that, you know, we met a few times. We hung out when he was doing his second album, and actually I was doing the second Spread album. I don't think really he liked it that much. I played it for him. He's like, nah, that's not what I expected, you know. And I'm like, ugh. I just bowed my head, you know. I was like, oh, sorry, you know, sorry, it's not heavy enough for you, because we were kind of, that second Spread record was more like you know, we tried to write good songs, you know, more mature songs, and some people weren't ready for that. They just wanted to keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Right, yeah.
You know, songs like If I Can't Have You, they're cool. You know, it's got that high screaming vocal and music's all there, but it was too smooth for people. But some people love that album and some people don't. You know, but luckily Spread heads, you know, our friends, you know what we're about. And I think once someone likes your sound or whatever it is you do, whether it's that they understand what's going on and then you have to grow a little bit, and those are the people that stay with you.
Right, yeah. definitely.
So yeah, so me and Rob were like, years later, like, this thing we had was pretty good. Let's go and just try it out. And after a few years, Rob, after him working with UFO and Bach, I think Rob wanted to make his own, put his own seal on things. I think Rob understands that spread is the thing that that it's part of his identity. I think it's his main identity, and he'll always carry that. Me
Right.
too. No matter what I do. I've tried to be in heavier bands. It doesn't matter. I'm still the singer for Spread Eagle.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
And I could try to adapt my style 100 different ways, but you are who you are, man. So Robbie got it up his ass, hair up his ass to go get us a deal, and luckily we had Ricky and we had Zeeb. We'd had our version of Spread. Once we got Zeeb and Ricky on board, it was just like this super creative, high energy thing, man. But what we did, and I think it was in 2017, we went, somehow Rob got us some gigs in Europe.
Right.
Spread had never got to go to Europe before. So this is like, I love Rick DeLuca. And Rick DeLuca is so good that you just want to see him get on stage and smile because he lives for this shit.
Wow. Uh-huh.
So for me and Rick and Rob and Z to all get on a plane to fly to Europe together was the coolest fucking thing. That was like back in 2017.
Right.
So we were like, look at us, man, because we wanted to see what was out there. So the audiences were really cool. We did a Sleaze Rocks Festival.
Uh-huh. I remember.
And man, I got to tell you, I almost shit myself. I actually, we went on before. My other friend is Jizzy Pearl.
Uh-huh.
His band played after us, and he'd been there a lot. He's like a rock star over there, man.
Wow.
And it was mind-blowing, great sound. Everybody's really cool. It was a great gig. Whether people remembered us or not, the folks that kind of like did know who we were like, they took a step closer. They're like, whoa, who are these fucking guys? But, that's that band from, early 90s. It's where you go, oh, fucking nice, And when you play there, people say things like, oh, we really appreciate you, man. Thanks for playing. I'm like, wow, you're welcome. Okay. You're welcome. It was just a great, I hadn't felt that kind of love in a long time.
Right, yeah.
That kind of appreciation, not love, it's appreciation.
Yeah.
And I don't confuse the two. So I think we had such a great vibe from that 2 weeks playing over there that somehow we got this some cash from Frontiers to go do this record. And Rob and Rick were just writing themes, and everybody writes. Zeev writes, and all four of us sing. So we all think about that kind of stuff when we write too. And we did the Subway to the Stars record, man. And I think it's the best thing we ever did. So it's amazing how you could take a band's sound and sort of let it mature, let it cook a little longer and marinate in the bag,
right.
And you come up with this cool fucking thing. And even at the end of it, I was like, holy shit, this is good, man. And people were really receptive to it. And because with me, I think with singers, doing this kind of thing, people are like, well, is he still going to screen those notes? Is Ray going to do that? But I think they understand that I have ownership of my sound, right. And what I am now is what I am. I can't certain things anymore, but I can do this now, and I can do this as best as I can. And Rob is super supportive, and Zeev is super supportive, and Ricky's very supportive, and we all push the vocals to the point where they're going to be. We feel they're good because that's my part of it,
Right.
And it was probably the easiest, most fun time I'd ever had in the studio, because the worst time I'd ever had was doing the first record.
Right, yeah.
That was the worst experience for me, because you're in there getting beat like a dog, It's like, oh, you fucking, come on, man, you suck. That sucked. Beat it,
Yeah.
And you're like, come on, Dad, come on. So, we grew up. The record's grown up, and we want to make another one. So I learned my big lesson. You can go back home. You can go back home, because Spread is like a safe space.
Wow.
So, and it's because everybody makes it so. I love Ricky. I've known Ricky like 30 years. I've known Rob 30 years. Zeev's new to the thing, but it's like Zeev's always been a part of it.
Right, yeah.
And Zeev just had a baby. His life is rich. He doesn't need to be doing this, but he does. He loves it.
Wow. I know I saw a video of Rob, plugging the new materials, starting to demo it and stuff like that. How's that going so far?
Well, it's good because, you've got Ricky and Rob, they write from the bottom end up.
Right.
So we're talking about rhythm section and then writing out. I think Zeev writes on his own too, and Zeev comes to the table with his own his own riffs and melody ideas, and then we just put it into the soup and stir it and see what happens. So this time about, I think Rob and Ricky have already started writing, because Rob goes to Rick's all the time. Ricky has a full-blown studio, as you know, in his place that he's always got up on Facebook. Zeev also has, a way to record remotely if he needs to. That's the magic of Zeev. He'll just record from his house, and then he'll come and deal with it. It's our process. We have to schedule it very carefully. So I imagine by maybe wintertime,
right,
we'll be swinging for the fences with that, and we'll be full blown trying to record something, and then start to play. I would love to be like for Spread to do these festival gigs and all that stuff. But it takes a lot of scheduling. It takes a lot of finance. It takes a budget. If you don't got money in this business, it's really a little difficult. So we just got to hope that there's enough people out there that support us that will ask to have us somewhere, and we'll get it done. We will play.
Right.
So we instead of just going on and doing like one-offs, we really want to concentrate on having another new album, so we can have a lot of material to choose from, I think, and sort of present us as not new, but this is where we are now. And the people that have come for the ride, the people that like the Spread stuff, really like the new stuff. So that was surprising to me.
Cool, definitely cool.
And a good surprise, not like it wasn't going to happen. It was just you hope for the best, man.
Right. Yeah.
Because when people are used to you being a certain way, like we said, some people don't want you to change.
Right.
But but they understand that's what we do. We have to evolve.
Right. Yeah. Wow. So how's it taking care of Brando?
Brando's life changing.
Is that him laughing?
It's too funny because I never thought I could be responsible for the nurturing and raising of another human being.
Right.
I just didn't think I had it in me. And why I did it, it's more like you love something so much, man. I never had so much worry in my life.
Uh-huh.
Because now you get like, okay, I'm going to eat. Oh, but wait a minute. He's got to have some too.
Yep, definitely.
There's one slice of pizza left. Fuck. I got to give it to him. Everything. He gets everything, man. Whatever, all the money I had, and everything. It's just has gone towards raising this child.
Right. Yep.
And take care of my Subi.
Yeah. I know.
But it's been, come on, man. It's watching me, and then he just turned 18. So I'm like, I got him this far.
Right.
And even I'm impressed by that. So he still likes me. He still thinks I'm somewhat cool. At some part you become the corny dad.
Right, yeah.
Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter how many tattoos you got or how cool you think you are. You're going to become the corny dad, and he will see you as that.
Right.
But he's a cool kid. He's a way better musician than I ever was. He plays bass, guitar, and keyboard. And he's self-taught. Well, other than the School of Rock thing, he actually didn't do any lessons there. He just sort of said, he's like me. He's like, yeah, I can do it. He just started doing it.
Wow.
He threw himself into the mix, and he's like that. He's a risk taker.
Right. Yeah.
He definitely assesses the risk, and sometimes he'll scare himself, but he does it anyway.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
He's a good guy. He's soulful, man. Like he loves John Mayer and stuff like that. He listens to things intensely. Like he feels music as much as I ever did, and it scares me. You know what I mean? Because it causes a lot of pain.
Right.
Wow. But he doesn't want, his thing isn't like searching out the next gig. He just wants to play because he likes playing. He just wants to make it part of his life. He's not like, I'm going to make this my center and go after this thing, and he's got different hopes and dreams, But
right.
but he's got a better soundtrack than I do.
Wow. Cool.
Oh, hang on a second. Oh, hang on a second. Where you going?
I'm going to just get up so they want to come with me.
I'm talking to Brian, doing this interview right now.
All right, call me.
Oh, hey, that's my girl.
So is he your nephew?
Yeah, so Bran, some people think he's my son. Bran is my son because I adopted him.
Okay, that's
but
right.
He's my nephew. He's my youngest brother's son.
Right.
But our family was in crisis a while back, just before my mother passed away.
Right.
And the people that he was housed with, being my other parts of family, I still love my family. My brothers are awesome. And his father is not a bad person. He was just in a place in his life where he couldn't take care of him.
Oh, okay.
And the other people that were responsible for him were kind of like putting him in the corner and not taking care of him the way he should have been. And I feared for his anxiety level and stuff like that. My mom was his only partner.
Right.
My mom took care of him as best she could. My mom raised him.
Right.
Because Brando's mom passed away when he was 1.5.
Wow.
So he's had a lot of loss. Then he lost grandma, so I'm mom and dad.
Cool.
So at some point, I think one day he asked, I can call you dad, right? I'm like, you can call me whatever you want, man, because I love you, I'm here for you, Even when we hung out when he was little, when I first held him, I just felt really connected to this kid.
Right.
So it's a role reversal because, his birth father, is kind of like an uncle,
Right.
and I'm the dad. So, he's got two dads.
Right.
Wow. But we're white on rice, man, I felt he's so much of a pain in the ass. I felt like I gave birth to him.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, because I adopted my wife's daughter, and I went to court and everything else. She changed her name, but now she got married, so now it's back to the new guy's name. But I know
you can only
exactly
do so much. Man.
I know exactly what you went through.
Yeah, man. Actually, and when we first started living together, at first he was a little scared. I had him in New York. So he was living that life, and he became very independent. I put him in a lot of theater groups and stuff like that. He did the Possibility Project. He did that on his own, really.
Right.
Because I used to work, for the Nederlander Company. I worked on Broadway, doing all the bar setups and stuff like that.
Right.
We did everything together. My way of raising a child was whatever I'm going to do, I'm just going to have him do it with me because I have nobody to watch him if I take off.
Right.
So I took him off. Actually, the spread tour that we did originally. Was it the first one? He came on the road with us.
Cool.
So he was like with Rob, Ricky.
Yeah,
man. He was with Rob, Ricky, Zeev, and he was in the van and, eating bad food, and he learned not to have Taco Bell before you go on stage. That's the number one thing he learned. Wow. I'm not going to have Taco Bell and play. I get it. It's not good. I'm like, yeah, man. He's just a good guy. I can't say it enough. And people that have met him with me,
Right.
It takes a village, so everybody that was in my life helped to raise that kid.
Cool.
And he and I have been on our own for a long time. And then we moved to Florida, and we have Susan, and she's awesome for us. So it's been great.
Wow. Well, Ray, it was great talking to you, and really experience. I really enjoyed the background and stuff like that, and your stories. It's enlightening.
Well, no matter I had geared my entire life towards singing for bands, but then I got, Raising Brando sort of straightened me out.
Right.
It took me off this crazy path that I was so hyper-focused on, and I got to focus on somebody else besides my own shit, so I became unselfish, to a point, because sometimes people take the last shit out of the fridge and piss me off.
Right.
But I there's more. I just learned there's more. I didn't know that, man. I can honestly say I didn't know that until you raise a child, it changes your perspective on everything.
Oh, yeah.
And because I did it when I'm older, I don't have there's no ego. I don't feel like I missed out on anything. I've had a lot of opportunity thrown my way, and my main focus is raising this kid. That's the legacy.
Right.
Raising the child and hoping that he does right, because I'm not going to live forever.
Right.
He thinks I am, so he's going to be in for a surprise. But
wow.
He's going to learn a cold hard truth. But he's strong, man, and that's what matters to me. I'd rather go through life and just be a good person and not bow to stupid shit or opportunities that aren't really me.
Right.
I did some things that I'm not too proud of. And I'm still here, man. So if I can just have fun and just be with people that love and respect me and play music or whatever it is, do stand-up comedy, do theater, whatever the fuck it is I want to do to express myself. A podcast. I wouldn't mind doing a podcast.
Right.
But since that's what everybody else in the world is doing. So, you've been a really great friend to me all these years, man. And you only come out of this with only so many really good friends.
I bet you.
Because I've been I'm a gypsy through this business, man. I just, I haven't gotten the big shot. When I did, I walked away from it. But I believe in it. I believe that music is important. I believe that our generation loves to go out and support its music and its people, and I think the more that I'm myself, the better off I am.
Right, yeah, definitely.
Because I just came out of a couple of years where I was honestly not myself, but luckily for Robbie and Rick and Zeev, I have that, and they're great to me, man, and it's a family. And I've always searched for family. I'm a child of divorce, man. I search for family. I think when you're a child of divorce, you search for brothers and family.
Wow. So, you know,
Yeah.
like I said, it was great talking to you. And would you like to say anything to the fans about the upcoming album or yourself? Anything?
Oh well, there's always so much to say, man. I never feel like I can say it all. I, thanks to social media, I've gotten to chat with a lot of people, and I think that becomes inspiring. People, when you're on the road and some kid says you inspire him, that really fucks with your mind because you're like, man, I got to do more of this.
Yeah.
And I think if I'm just honest with everybody and really transparent, I think we'll always be there for each other. So I think I'm always there for anybody who wants to reach out to me, and I'm the same. It's all about connecting with people. Like the people that I connect with, they know who I am, and that I really love them.
Right.
That's not bullshit. Because I know what it's like to stand in a room and feel that kind of an affection. I also know what it's like to stand in the room and not feel that kind of an affection. So I know when people are being honest.
Right.
But I think I'll always be there for everybody. I give the best I can. I'll always be honest. I'll try to be as soulful as I can and be always just there for people, man. And I can only be myself. So if I disappoint people, I'm sorry. I'll just do what I can. All right. So we're all trying to express ourselves in any way we can. Mine doesn't always have to be being up in front of an audience every day. It's just about me living a really genuine life and being honest and learning, man. I've gotten older, and, it's not going to last forever, so I want to be a good person. I want to be remembered as somebody who really cared about people and wanted to do the right thing.
Cool. Cool. Cool.
So for all my friends, and I love you guys, and thanks for all the support, and thanks for supporting Spread Eagle and everything else I've ever done, and just being cool and not forgetting, because it's so easy to forget about people if you don't see them on Facebook every other day.
Cool. Cool. Thanks a lot, Ray. I appreciate the chat.
Sure. All right. Love you, man. Peace.
You too. Bye bye.